My name is Sadie, and I'm 30. A year ago, I sat by this window staring at a world I couldn't join. A car accident took my legs, and then my husband Nathan took my heart. "I'm done with you," he said, his eyes cold as he left with my best friend. I felt like nothing, just a woman who couldn't walk. But something in me refused to break. 1 year later, I turned it all around. How do you rise from betrayal? Share where you're watching from, like if you've ever fought back, and subscribe for my story. I woke up to the hum of rain against the window, my new normal in this Seattle apartment. At 29, I used to love mornings sketching designs over coffee with Nathan, my husband of 5 years. Now my wheelchair sat by the bed, a reminder of the crash. The drunk driver who hit me was long gone, but the damage lingered. I reached for my phone, hoping for a text from Harper, my best friend. Nothing. Just a weather alert. My chest tightened, but I pushed it down. Nathan was already in the kitchen, his back to me as I wheeled in. His broad shoulders, once a comfort, felt like a wall. "Morning," I said, forcing a smile. He grunted, stirring his coffee. No eye contact. I tried again. "You sleep okay?" He shrugged. "Work's been rough." His voice was flat, like he was reading a script. I nodded, pretending it didn't sting. I remembered our old mornings laughing over burnt toast, planning hikes. We'd been solid, or so I thought. Harper would join us sometimes, her loud laugh filling the room. She'd been my rock since college, always there with a joke or a late-night call. After the accident, she brought me lattes in the hospital, promising we'd get through this. But her visits had slowed her texts short. I told myself she was busy. I wheeled to the counter, grabbing a mug. Nathan didn't offer to help. He used to hovering like I was fragile. Now he barely looked up. "You're home late again tonight?" I asked, keeping my tone light. He nodded, eyes on his phone. "Yeah, client dinner." My stomach twisted. Last week I'd found a receipt in his jacket pocket, a fancy restaurant downtown. 2 entrees, 2 drinks. I hadn't been out in months. I sipped my coffee, the silence heavy. "Maybe we could go somewhere this weekend," I said. "Just us." He finally looked at me, but his eyes were distant, like he was already gone. "We'll see," he muttered, grabbing his keys. "Gotta run." He left without a goodbye, the door clicking shut. I stared at the empty space, my fingers tight around the mug. At physical therapy, Denise was waiting, her no-nonsense braids swinging as she set up the equipment. "Ready to work those arms, Sadie?" she asked, her voice warm but firm. I nodded, though my heart wasn't in it. She noticed, her eyes narrowing. "You're quiet today." "What's up?" I forced a laugh. "Just tired." She didn't buy it, but didn't push, guiding me through exercises instead. My arms burned as I lifted weights, each rep a fight against my own body. Denise adjusted my grip, her hands steady. "You're stronger than you think," she said. I wanted to believe her. I'd been a runner, my legs carrying me through marathons. Now I was learning to trust my arms, my shoulders. But strength felt pointless when Nathan barely saw me. Between sets, I checked my phone. Still no word from Harper. I texted her, keeping it casual. "Hey, you free for lunch soon?" No reply. I scrolled through her Instagram, stopping at a photo of her at a cafe smiling with a group. My throat tightened. Why hadn't she invited me? I shoved the phone away, focusing on the weights. Denise handed me a towel. "You're distracted," she said, not accusing, just stating a fact. I sighed. Nathan's been weird. And Harper's, I don't know, distant. She sat across from me, her eyes kind. "People show who they are when things get hard. Keep your eyes open." Her words stuck with me, heavy and true. Back home, I wheeled to the living room, the apartment too quiet. Nathan's jacket hung on the chair. I stared at it, remembering the receipt. My hand hovered, tempted to check again. Instead, I turned away, not ready for what I might find. The rain outside grew louder, matching the unease in my chest. Something was shifting, and I wasn't sure I could stop it. The next morning, I woke to a text from my sister Lauren, her words sharp even through the screen. "You need to get your act together, Sadie. Nathan's probably stressed because you're moping." I tossed the phone onto the bed, my jaw tight. Lauren was in Chicago, far from my reality, but her judgment still cut. She'd always been the perfect one, quick to point out my flaws. I didn't reply, not wanting her voice in my head today. I wheeled to the kitchen, noticing Nathan's shoes by the door caked with mud. He hadn't worn those since we used to hike together. Where had he been? I shook off the thought, focusing on breakfast. The cereal box was on a high shelf out of reach. I stretched my arms, straining, but it tipped over, spilling flakes across the counter. I cursed under my breath, the mess feeling like a metaphor for my life. At therapy, Denise had me working on a new machine, one that mimicked rowing. My shoulders ached, but I pushed through her encouragement, steady. "You're building more than muscle," she said, tapping her temple. I nodded, but my mind was elsewhere. Harper still hadn't answered my text. I'd sent another last night asking if she was okay. Silence. It wasn't like her, or at least it hadn't been. Back home, I called Harper, my fingers shaky as I dialed. It went to voicemail. "Hey, it's me," I said, trying to sound casual. "Miss you. Call me?" I hung up, staring at the phone, willing it to ring. It didn't. I opened my laptop, needing a distraction. My inbox had a new email from a client praising my latest design. It should have felt good, but the spark I used to get from work was gone. Nathan came home late, the clock ticking past 9. I was in the living room sketching on my tablet when he walked in. His tie was loose, his hair messy, like he'd run his hands through it too many times. "Hey," I said, looking up. He mumbled something, heading straight for the fridge. I watched him grab a beer, the bottle clinking against the shelf. "Long day?" I asked, keeping my voice even. "Yeah," he said, not turning around. "Meetings." He took a swig, still facing away. I gripped my stylus tighter, the air between us thick. "You've been having a lot of those," I said, testing the waters. He froze just for a second, then turned, his eyes narrowing. "What's that supposed to mean?" His tone was sharp, like I'd accused him of something. I hesitated, my heart pounding. "Just, you're never here." My voice was softer than I meant, almost pleading. He sighed, setting the bottle down hard. "I'm doing what I can, Sadie. You think this is easy for me?" His words hit like a slap. I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. He grabbed his beer and walked to the bedroom, leaving me alone again. I wheeled to the window, the city lights blurred by rain. My reflection stared back, tired and small. I thought about Denise's words about people showing who they are. Nathan's distance wasn't just stress. Something was wrong, and Harper's silence wasn't a coincidence. I pulled out my phone, scrolling through Nathan's texts. One from last week caught my eye, sent to someone unnamed, "Meet me at 7. She won't know." My breath caught the words, burning into me. I closed the phone, my hands trembling. I wanted to confront him, to demand answers, but fear held me back. What if I was wrong? What if I was right? The apartment felt smaller, the walls closing in. I looked at Nathan's shoes again, the mud dried in clumps. They weren't just shoes anymore. They were proof something was slipping away, and I wasn't ready to face it yet. The next day, I couldn't shake Nathan's text from my mind. "Meet me at 7. She won't know." It looped in my head, each word a splinter. I sat at the kitchen table, my coffee cold, staring at his jacket on the chair. Part of me wanted to dig through it to find proof, but my hands stayed still, heavy with dread. I wasn't ready to know. Not yet. Instead, I wheeled to my desk, trying to lose myself in a design project, but the lines blurred, my focus gone. Nathan was already at work, or so he'd said. His absence left the apartment hollow, the hum of the fridge too loud. I checked my phone, hoping Harper had called back. Nothing. I opened Instagram, a habit now, and there she was. A new post, her at some rooftop bar, glass raised city lights behind her. I zoomed in, my heart racing. In the corner, barely visible, was Nathan's jacket slung over a chair. My breath caught sharp and painful. I dropped the phone, my hands shaking. It wasn't proof, not really, but it was enough to make my stomach churn. Harper, my Harper, who'd held my hand through college breakups, who'd cried with me in the hospital. Nathan, who'd promised forever. The room spun, and I gripped the arms of my wheelchair, steadying myself. I wanted to scream to call them both and demand answers, but fear choked me. What if they laughed? What if they didn't care? The doorbell buzzed, snapping me out of it. I wheeled over expecting a delivery, but it was Marcus, my neighbor. He stood there, his cane tapping lightly, a paper bag in hand. "Brought you some muffins?" he said, his voice gruff but kind. I forced a smile, taking the bag. "Thanks, Marcus. You didn't have to." He shrugged, studying me. "You look like you need a friend." His words hit harder than I expected, and I blinked back tears. He didn't push, just sat on the couch talking about his army days, stories of loss and grit. I listened, grateful for the distraction, but my mind kept drifting to that photo. Marcus paused, his eyes sharp. "You're carrying something heavy, Sadie. Don't let it crush you." I nodded, unable to speak. He left soon after, but his words lingered, a quiet nudge to face the truth. At therapy, Denise pushed me harder, setting up an obstacle course for my chair. My arms burned as I navigated cones, her voice steady. "Keep going, Sadie. You've got this." I didn't feel like I had anything. Sweat dripped down my back and I snapped, "What's the point? I'm not getting my legs back." She stopped, crouching beside me. "This isn't about your legs. It's about your fight." Her words were a mirror showing me how much I'd been hiding. Back home, I found a scarf on the couch, soft and blue, one I'd bought Harper years ago. My heart sank. She'd been here in my space and left this behind like it meant nothing. I held at the fabric, cool against my skin, my anger rising. Had she been here with Nathan? The thought made my chest ache, a mix of betrayal and rage. I stuffed the scarf under a cushion, not ready to face it, but the weight of it stayed. My phone buzzed. Lauren again. "Call me. You're worrying Mom." I ignored it, her voice already too loud in my head. She'd say I was overreacting, that Nathan was just busy. But I knew better now. I wheeled to the bedroom, my eyes landing on Nathan's nightstand. His drawer was slightly open, a corner of paper sticking out. My hand hovered, my pulse loud in my ears. I reached for it, then stopped, fear winning again. But the scarf, the photo, that text, they were piling up, and I couldn't ignore them much longer. I pulled my hand back from Nathan's drawer, my heart hammering. The apartment was too quiet, the rain outside a dull roar. I wheeled to the living room, trying to calm myself, but the scarf under the cushion seemed to pulse, demanding attention. I couldn't touch it again. Instead, I opened my laptop, needing work to anchor me. A client email waited, asking for revisions. I stared at the screen, but the words swam my mind, stuck on Nathan and Harper. The front door opened and Nathan walked in earlier than usual. His shirt was wrinkled, his eyes tired. "You're home," I said, my voice tight. He nodded, tossing his keys on the counter. "Yeah, meeting got canceled." I watched him move to the fridge, grabbing another beer. The clink of the bottle felt like a taunt. "You've been drinking a lot lately," I said, unable to stop myself. He turned his jaw tight. "And you've been watching me like a hawk." His words were sharp, cutting through the air. I flinched, gripping the arms of my chair. "Maybe if you were here more, I wouldn't have to—" I shot back, my voice shaking. He laughed, a cold, bitter sound. "You think I want to be out there? I'm trying to keep us afloat." His eyes flicked to my chair, and I felt the unspoken weight, "because you can't." I swallowed, my throat burning. "You're not the only one struggling, Nathan." My voice cracked, but I held his gaze. He looked away, taking a long swig of his beer. "I don't need this right now," he muttered, heading for the bedroom. The door shut, leaving me in silence. I stared at the empty space, my chest tight, anger mixing with a gnawing fear. He wasn't just pulling away. He was hiding something. My phone buzzed, Lauren's name flashing. I ignored it, but her voicemail came through. "Sadie, Mom's worried. You're shutting everyone out. Call me." I deleted it, my hands trembling. Lauren didn't get it. She hadn't seen Nathan's eyes the way they dodged mine. She hadn't found Harper's scarf. I opened Instagram again, a masochistic urge. Harper had posted a story, a quick clip of her laughing at a bar. The background music was loud, but I caught a familiar voice. Nathan's. My stomach dropped. I paused the video, my finger hovering over the screen. It was him just out of frame, his laugh unmistakable. The clip looped each replay a knife. Harper hadn't tagged him, but she didn't need to. I closed the app, my breath shallow. They were together, lying to my face. I wheeled to the bedroom door, wanting to barge in to scream at Nathan, but I stopped. What would I say? What if he admitted it? Instead, I went to the bathroom, locking the door. The shower was my safe place, the one spot Nathan couldn't hear me cry. I turned on the water, letting it drown out the sobs I'd been holding back. The steam filled the room, but it couldn't wash away the ache. I thought of Harper's smile, Nathan's lies, Lauren's judgment. Everyone was slipping away, and I was stuck trapped in this chair in this life. I dried my face, wheeling back to the living room. Nathan's laptop sat on the coffee table, left open. My heart raced as I moved closer. The screen showed his email, a new message at the top. The subject line read, "Confirmation hotel stay." My hand froze over the mouse. It was for this weekend, a place downtown. 2 guests. My vision blurred, the words searing into me. This wasn't a work trip. It was them. I closed the laptop, my hands shaking, rage and heartbreak colliding. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think, but I knew one thing: the truth was coming, and it was going to break me. I sat in the living room, the hotel email burned into my mind. The clock ticked past midnight, but sleep was impossible. Nathan was in the bedroom, probably asleep, oblivious to the storm inside me. I'd printed the email, the paper now crumpled in my lap. 2 guests downtown this weekend. My hands shook as I smoothed it out, the words mocking me. I couldn't wait anymore. I needed answers, even if they broke me. I wheeled to the bedroom door, my heart pounding. The door creaked as I pushed it open. Nathan was sprawled on the bed, his phone on the nightstand glowing with a new message. I froze, tempted to check it, but I needed his words, not more secrets. "Nathan," I said, my voice low but firm. He stirred, blinking at me. "What's wrong?" His tone was annoyed, like I'd interrupted something important. I held up the email, my hands steady despite the tremor inside. "What's this?" His eyes widened just for a second before he sat up, rubbing his face. "Work stuff," he said, too quick. I shook my head, my voice rising. "Don't lie to me." "A hotel, 2 guests. Who's the other one, Nathan?" The air thickened, his silence deafening. I leaned forward, my eyes locked on his. "Tell me the truth." He stood pacing to the window, his back to me. "You're making this bigger than it is, Sadie." His voice was tight, defensive. I laughed, a bitter sound that surprised me. "Am I?" "Because I found Harper's scarf. I saw you in her story. I know you're lying." My words hung there, sharp and heavy. He turned his face hard, and for the first time I saw guilt flicker in his eyes. "It's not what you think," he started, but I cut him off. "Then what is it? Explain it, Nathan." "Because I'm done guessing." My voice cracked, anger and hurt spilling out. He sighed, running a hand through his hair. "I can't do this anymore, Sadie. Us. It's too much." My breath caught the room tilting. "Too much," I whispered, my hands gripping the chair. "I'm the one who lost everything. And you're what, tired of me?" He looked at me. Then his eyes cold, like I was a stranger. "You're not the same," he said, his voice low. "You're not the woman I married." The words hit like a punch, stealing my air. I stared at him, my mind racing. The marathon medal, the one I'd won 3 years ago, sat on the dresser. He followed my gaze, then grabbed it, tossing it to the floor. It clattered, the sound echoing in my chest. "That's who you were," he said. "Not this." I couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. The medal lay there, scratched and dull, like everything I'd been. My eyes burned, but I refused to cry. "So that's it," I said, my voice shaking. "You're giving up because I can't walk." He didn't answer, just looked away, and that silence was worse than any words. I wheeled closer, my voice rising. "Who is it, Nathan? Who's worth throwing us away for?" The doorbell buzzed, sharp and jarring. Nathan froze, his face pale. I turned, my heart sinking. I knew who it was before I even moved. I wheeled to the door, my hands trembling as I opened it. Harper stood there, her hair damp from the rain, her eyes wide. "Sadie," she said, her voice soft, like she was soothing a child. "I didn't mean for you to find out like this." My stomach twisted, her words confirming everything I'd feared. I looked back at Nathan, then at her, my voice barely a whisper. "How long?" Harper's eyes darted to Nathan, then back to me. "Sadie, please," she started, but I cut her off, my voice raw. "How long have you been lying to me?" The room felt too small, their faces blurring as my anger surged. I wanted to scream to make them feel the weight of their betrayal, but all I could do was sit there trapped in my chair, my world crumbling. Harper stepped inside her boots, leaving wet prints on the floor. Her eyes were glossy, but I saw no real tears. Nathan stood frozen, his hands clenched. I wheeled back, putting space between us, my voice shaking with fury. "Answer me, Harper. How long have you been sneaking around?" She glanced at Nathan, her lips parting, but no words came. I laughed, a hollow sound. "You can't even say it. My best friend and my husband. How could you?" Harper's face crumpled, but her voice was steady. "It wasn't planned, Sadie. It just happened. After the accident, you were so different. We didn't know how to help." Her words sliced through me, each one a betrayal deeper than the last. I gripped my chair, my knuckles white. "So you helped yourselves to each other." My voice broke, but I didn't look away. Nathan finally spoke, his tone sharp. "Don't make this all on us. You shut me out, Sadie. You stopped trying." I stared at him, stunned. "I stopped trying. I'm fighting every day to live with this." I gestured to my chair, my voice rising. "You think I wanted this? You think I chose to lose everything?" He flinched, but his eyes were hard, unyielding. Harper reached out her hand, hovering like she might touch me. "We didn't want to hurt you," she said, her voice soft, practiced. I jerked back, my eyes burning. "Don't. You don't get to play sorry now." I looked between them, my chest heaving. "How long have you been laughing behind my back, planning your little hotel getaways?" Harper's eyes widened and Nathan's jaw tightened. They hadn't expected me to know that. The room was suffocating, their presence a weight I couldn't bear. I wheeled to the coffee table, grabbing my phone. My hands shook as I opened Harper's last text, months old, promising to visit. "You lied to me," I said, holding it up. "Both of you. Smiling to my face while you—" I couldn't finish the words, choking me. Harper's eyes filled with tears, but they felt fake, a performance. Nathan stepped forward, his voice low. "You want the truth? I love her, Sadie. I didn't mean to, but I do." The room went still, his words a hammer to my heart. I stared at him, my mind blank, the man I'd loved for years now, a stranger. Harper gasped, her hand covering her mouth, but I saw the flicker of triumph in her eyes. She'd won, and she knew it. I wanted to scream, to throw something, but my body felt heavy, drained. "Get out," I said, my voice barely audible. Nathan hesitated, his eyes flickering with something, guilt maybe, or pity. I hated it. "Get out!" I shouted, my voice raw, echoing in the small apartment. Harper grabbed her coat, her movements quick, like she couldn't wait to escape. Nathan followed, his steps slow, but he didn't look back. The door clicked shut, and the silence was worse than their words. I wheeled to the window, my hands trembling, watching their shadows disappear into the rain. The apartment felt empty, a shell of the life we'd built. My eyes landed on the coffee table, where a photo of us at our wedding sat untouched for months. I reached for it, my fingers brushing the glass, and then let it fall. It didn't break, but I wished it had. Everything inside me already was. The morning after Nathan and Harper left, I woke to a stillness that felt final. The apartment was mine now, but it didn't feel like home. I wheeled to the kitchen, avoiding the spot where the wedding photo still lay on the floor. Coffee didn't help. The bitterness matched my mood. My phone buzzed, Denise checking in. "You okay, Sadie?" her text read. I wasn't, but her words sparked something. I couldn't sit here drowning in their betrayal. I needed to move. I called Denise back, my voice steadier than I felt. "You mentioned that adaptive sports program. Is it too late to join? She laughed a warm sound. Never too late. I'll send you the details. By noon, I had an email with a schedule for a wheelchair basketball team. The thought of playing scared me. My arms were strong from therapy, but I hadn't been part of a team since high school. Still, I signed up, my heart racing with a mix of fear and defiance. That afternoon, I wheeled to my desk, opening my laptop. Work had been a lifeline, but I'd been coasting, doing just enough. I scrolled through job boards, landing on a posting from a local nonprofit needing a freelance designer for an accessibility campaign. It felt like fate. I spent hours crafting a pitch, tailoring my portfolio to highlight inclusive designs I'd done years ago. My fingers flew, each word a small rebellion against Nathan's claim that I'd stopped trying. At therapy, Denise noticed the shift. "You've got a spark today," she said, adjusting the weights. I grinned, pushing through a set. Signed up for basketball, and pitched a new client. She raised an eyebrow, impressed. "Look at you taking names." Her pride fueled me, but doubt lingered. What if I failed? What if Nathan was right, and I wasn't enough anymore? I shoved the thought away, focusing on the burn in my shoulders. The next day, I met Marcus at the mailboxes, his cane tapping as he sorted letters. "Heard you're joining a sports team," he said, his eyes twinkling. I laughed, surprised. "Denise talks too much." He handed me a flyer for a neighborhood book club. "You need people, Sadie. Not just sweat and goals." I took it, the idea of new faces both daunting and warm. Maybe he was right. My first basketball practice was that evening. The gym smelled of rubber and polish, the court gleaming under fluorescent lights. I wheeled in, my stomach in knots. The team was small, 6 women, their chairs lined up like a challenge. Tara, the captain, rolled over, her braids swinging. Sadie Wright, ready to get dirty. Her grin was infectious, but my hands shook as I gripped my wheels. "I'll try," I said, hoping I meant it. Tara tossed me a ball and I caught it, the weight grounding me. We ran drills, my chair clunky at first, but Tara's voice kept me going. "Move your shoulders, not just your arms," she called. I missed every shot, the ball bouncing off the rim, but no one laughed. For the first time in months, I felt part of something bigger than my pain. Sweat dripped down my back and I smiled, a real one. Back home, I found an email from the nonprofit. They loved my pitch and wanted a meeting. My heart leapt, but then my phone lit up, a text from Nathan. "Can we talk? I need to see you." My stomach twisted, the high from practice fading. Why now? What did he want? I stared at the screen, my finger hovering over reply. Part of me wanted to ignore him, to keep building this new life. But another part, the part still raw from his words, needed to know. I typed, "Fine. Tomorrow." As I hit send, a quiet strength stirred inside me, like I was finally ready to face him, not as his wife, but as me. The next morning I woke early, my mind buzzing with Nathan's text. I didn't want him back, but his words could still pull me under if I let them. I wheeled to the closet, pulling out a sketchbook I hadn't touched in months. Inside were old designs, bold and fearless from before the accident. I traced one, a mural I'd dreamed of painting. Today I decided I'd start something new. I sketched a phoenix, its wings sharp and fiery, rising from ash. It felt like me, or who I could be. At practice, Tara paired me with her for a scrimmage. My chair felt lighter now, my movements less hesitant. I blocked a shot, the ball smacking my palm, and the team cheered. Tara grinned, shouting, "That's my girl." My chest swelled, not just from the play, but from belonging. After she rolled over, wiping sweat from her brow. "You're tougher than you look, Sadie." I laughed, the sound foreign but real. "Learning to be," I said. Later I met with the nonprofit at a small office downtown. The director, a woman named Carla, had a warm smile and sharp questions. I presented my designs, explaining how color and layout could make their website more accessible. My voice was steady, my passion real. Carla nodded, impressed. "We want you on this, Sadie. Can you start next week?" I agreed, my heart racing. This wasn't just a job. It was proof I could still build something. Back home, I joined Marcus's book club, held in his cramped living room. The group was small, 4 neighbors, plus me sipping tea and debating a novel about second chances. I shared a thought about the main character's resilience, my voice quiet but firm. A woman named Joyce with kind eyes squeezed my hand. "You get it," she said. I smiled, feeling seen not as the woman in the chair, but as Sadie with something to say. The meeting with Nathan loomed. I chose a coffee shop, neutral ground, my Phoenix sketch tucked in my bag for courage. He was already there when I arrived, sitting by the window, his hands fidgeting. He looked smaller, his confidence gone. "Sadie," he said, standing as I wheeled up. I nodded, keeping my face blank. "Sit," I said, my voice cool. He did, his eyes darting like he wasn't sure where to start. "I messed up," he said, his voice low. "Harper and I, it's over." I didn't know what I was doing. His words were a script rehearsed and hollow. I leaned back, studying him. "You knew exactly what you were doing, Nathan. You chose her. You chose to leave." My voice was steady, each word deliberate. He winced, looking down. "I was wrong. I want to fix this." His eyes met mine, pleading, but I felt nothing. I thought of Tara's grin, Carla's handshake, Joyce's kindness. I thought of the phoenix, its wings unfurling. "There's nothing to fix," I said, my voice soft but final. "You don't get to walk back in because she left you." His face fell, and for the first time I saw him as he was, weak, not me. I wheeled back, ready to leave, but he grabbed my arm. "Sadie, please," he said, his voice breaking. I pulled away, my eyes locked on his. "I'm not yours to beg for." The words hung between us, heavy and true. I turned my chair, wheeling toward the door, the sketchbook warm against my side. Outside, the air was crisp, the city alive. I stopped, tilting my head to the sky, and breathed. The weight of him, of Harper, was still there, but it was lighter now. I wasn't done fighting, but I was done waiting. My hands tightened on my wheels, and I moved forward into the life I was building, one choice at a time. Leaving Nathan at the coffee shop felt like shedding a skin I'd outgrown. I wheeled home through Seattle's damp streets, the city's hum, a quiet comfort. My apartment greeted me with new warmth, the Phoenix sketch now pinned above my desk. I traced its lines, feeling the weight of my choice. Telling Nathan no wasn't just words. It was a line drawn, a door closed. But as I sat there, the silence grew heavy, his defeated face lingering in my mind. The next day, I met Tara at the gym for an extra practice. She'd texted, sensing I needed it. "Spill," she said, tossing me a ball. I dribbled my chair steady and told her about Nathan's plea. Her eyes narrowed. "He's got nerve crawling back." She passed hard, the ball smacking my hands. "You did good, Sadie. Don't let him shake you." I nodded, but his words echoed. "I want to fix this." Could he? At the nonprofit office, I started my contract, designing banners for their accessibility campaign. Carla, the director, hovered as I worked, praising my mock-ups. "These are fresh," she said, pointing to a bold font choice. I smiled, pride flickering, but the tight deadline loomed. Could I deliver? My hands moved faster, channeling doubt into focus. By day's end, I'd sent the first draft, my inbox soon pinging with Carla's approval. A small win, but it felt like mine. Marcus invited me to dinner at his place, a cozy affair with book club friends. His tiny kitchen smelled of roasted garlic, and Joyce poured wine, her laugh filling the room. They asked about my basketball, my designs, not my past. I shared a story about missing a shot but stealing the ball, and they cheered like it was a championship. For once, I wasn't the woman Nathan left. I was just Sadie, and that was enough. But Nathan's text kept nagging, a splinter I couldn't pull. I hadn't replied, but his number glowed on my phone, tempting me to reread it. I didn't. Instead, I wheeled to my kitchen, pulling out a recipe book I hadn't touched in years. Cooking felt like reclaiming something. I chopped vegetables, my knife steady, the rhythm soothing. The soup simmered, its warmth, a quiet defiance against the cold he'd left behind. My phone buzzed mid-stir. "Not Nathan, my mother Patricia. Lauren says you're shutting Nathan out. He's family Sadie. Talk to him." My grip tightened on the spoon. Lauren had run to Mom, twisting the story. I set the phone down, my jaw clenched. They didn't know the hotel, the scarf, Harper's fake tears. They saw me as the problem, the broken one who pushed him away. The soup boiled over, hissing on the stove, and I cursed, my hands shaking as I cleaned the mess. At practice, I pushed too hard, my chair colliding with Tara's during a drill. She grabbed my arm, steadying me. "You're off," she said, her voice low. I sighed, admitting Mom's call had rattled me. Tara's face softened. "Family can be blind. You know your truth." Her words were a lifeline, but the weight of Mom's judgment clung to me. I shot the ball, missing wide, the clang echoing my frustration. Back home, I found a package at my door, a small box, no note. Inside was a keychain, a tiny silver basketball. Tara's handwriting on a card read, "Keep rolling." I smiled, clipping it to my bag, but the warmth faded when I saw another text from Nathan. "I'm sorry, Sadie. Please, let's meet again." My heart stuttered, not with hope, but with dread. Why wouldn't he stop? I stared at the keychain, its shine catching the light, and felt the world pause, my next move, unclear, my strength teetering on the edge. I didn't respond to Nathan's text. The keychain from Tara swung on my bag, a quiet reminder of who I was becoming. I wheeled to my desk, the nonprofit's next deadline looming. My designs were sharper now, each line deliberate, like I was carving out a new version of myself. But Nathan's words lingered, a shadow I couldn't shake. I pushed through, sending Carla a revised banner by midnight. Her reply came fast. "You're killing it, Sadie." I read it twice, letting the praise sink in. At practice, I scored my first basket, the ball swishing through the net. The team erupted, Tara's shout loudest. I grinned, my chest light, but the high faded when I checked my phone. Another message from Mom. "You're being selfish. Nathan's trying." I stared at the screen, my fingers cold. Selfish, I'd given Nathan everything and he'd thrown it away. I deleted the text, my heart heavy, but didn't call her. Not yet. The book club met again, this time at Joyce's place. Her living room was cluttered with plants, the air thick with chamomile tea. We discussed a novel about betrayal, and I stayed quiet, their voices blurring. Joyce nudged me, her eyes kind. "Your turn, Sadie. What do you think?" I hesitated, then spoke, my voice low. "Sometimes the people you trust most cut the deepest." The room stilled, their nods soft, like they saw my truth. I wheeled home, the night crisp, Seattle's lights flickering. My apartment felt different now, less like a cage. I lit a candle, its glow soft on the Phoenix sketch. But Nathan's persistence gnawed at me. Why was he pushing? I opened my laptop, needing distraction, and found an email from Carla. The nonprofit wanted me for a year-long contract, a steady gig. I exhaled, pride mixing with relief. This was real, something he couldn't touch. My phone rang. Denise. "Heard you scored?" she said, her voice warm. I laughed, but it faded as I told her about Nathan's texts. Mom's pressure. She listened, then said, "You're not their Sadie anymore. Protect what you're building." Her words hit hard, a truth I wasn't fully ready for. I thanked her, hanging up, but the weight of her advice stayed heavy and clear. The next day, Nathan showed up. I opened the door, my heart steady but cold. He looked worn, his eyes red like he hadn't slept. "Sadie," he said, his voice soft, "I'm lost without you." I studied him, seeing the man who'd chosen Harper, who'd called me less. My chair felt like armor now, not a prison. "You don't get to say that," I said, my voice even. "You made your choice." He stepped closer, his hands open like a plea. "I was wrong. Harper's gone, and I see it now. We can start over." His voice cracked, but I felt no pull, no ache. I wheeled back, my eyes locked on his. "There's no we, Nathan. There's me, and I'm enough." He froze, his face crumpling, and for a moment I saw his weakness, not mine. I shut the door, the click final, my hands steady. I wheeled to the window, the city below, alive, indifferent. The candle flickered, its light dancing on the wall. I'd won this moment, but the victory felt hollow. Mom's words. Lauren's silence. Nathan's desperation, they pressed against me, a reminder of what I'd lost to gain this strength. I closed my eyes, the basketball keychain cool against my palm, and let the quiet settle heavy with all I'd carried, all I'd left behind. I woke to sunlight spilling through my apartment window, soft and golden, warming the wooden floor. At 30, I'd started noticing small things again, like the way light danced on my coffee mug or the hum of morning traffic. The chaos of Nathan and Harper felt distant now, like a storm that had passed. I wheeled to my desk, a new journal, open its pages crisp. I wrote about the accident, not with anger, but with clarity, tracing the path from that night to this quiet morning. Today was a rest day from basketball, so I took my time brewing tea instead of coffee. The minty steam curled upward, calming my thoughts. I'd been invited to speak at a design conference next month, sharing my work with a nonprofit. The idea thrilled me, but it also stirred a quiet fear. Could I stand in front of strangers, my chair visible, and own my story? I sipped my tea, letting the question settle. Marcus called, inviting me to a park near our building. I agreed, needing air. The park was small, with winding paths and kids chasing kites. I wheeled beside him, his cane tapping rhythmically. "You're different lately," he said, his voice gruff but warm. I smiled, watching a kite soar. "I'm finding my way," I said. He nodded, pointing to a bench. We sat, the breeze cool, and he told me about his wife, gone 5 years now. "Grief changes you," he said. "But it doesn't own you." His words landed softly, like they were meant for me. Back home, I pulled out a box from under my bed, one I'd avoided for months. Inside were letters from my dad, written before he passed when I was a teen. I read one, his handwriting shaky but sure, urging me to keep going no matter what. My throat tightened, not with sadness, but with gratitude. He'd believed in me long before I had to rebuild. I tucked the letter back, feeling anchored, like his words were roots I'd forgotten. My phone buzzed, a text from Lauren. "Can we talk? I was wrong?" I stared at it, my heart steady. She'd hurt me siding with Mom with Nathan, but her apology felt real. I replied, "Soon. I need time." It wasn't forgiveness yet, but it was a step. I wheeled to my window, the city stretching out below, alive and messy. I'd lost so much, but I'd gained something too, a clarity that came from choosing myself. I spent the afternoon sketching, not for work, but for me. A tree, its branches twisting upward strong despite the wind. It wasn't perfect, but it was mine. The nonprofit contract was thriving, my designs now on their website, reaching people I'd never meet. I thought of Tara, Marcus, Joyce, the people who saw me, not my chair. They were my ground now, not Nathan's promises. I set the sketch down, my hands still, and breathed the world quiet, my heart open, ready for whatever came next. The evening air was cool as I wheeled into the community center for basketball practice. The gym was alive, the squeak of wheels and laughter filling the space. Tara waved me over, her eyes bright. "Ready to shine?" she asked, tossing me a water bottle. I caught it, grinning, and joined the warm-up. My arms moved with ease now, each push a quiet proof of how far I'd come. I didn't score, but I didn't need to. Being there, part of the rhythm, was enough. After practice, Tara and I stayed late, sitting on the bleachers. She talked about her own journey, a car accident that took her legs a decade ago. "You think you'll break?" she said, her voice low. "But you rebuild piece by piece." I nodded, her words settling deep. I told her about the conference, my nerves about speaking. She leaned closer, her hand on my arm. "You'll own that stage, Sadie. You already are." Back home, I lit a small lamp, its glow soft on the walls. My apartment had changed, not just with plants or sketches, but with me. I opened my journal again, writing a single line, "I am enough." The words looked bold on the page, a promise I was starting to believe. I thought of Nathan, not with anger, but with distance, like a chapter I'd closed. Harper's face faded too, her betrayal no longer a weight I carried. The next day, I met Denise for coffee at a small cafe, its windows fogged from the morning chill. She looked proud, her braid looser today, like she was off duty. "You're different," she said, stirring her latte. "Stronger." I smiled, sipping my tea. "I'm learning," I said. We talked about the future, maybe competing with the team, maybe more design work. She listened, her eyes steady, and I felt seen, not as a patient, but as a woman finding her way. Later, I wheeled to a quiet corner of the park where a single oak stood, its leaves rustling. I stopped, tilting my head back, letting the breeze brush my face. I thought of my dad's letters, Marcus's stories, Tara's fire. They weren't just people. They were mirrors showing me who I could be. I reached into my bag, pulling out a small stone I'd picked up months ago, smooth and heavy. I'd carried it without knowing why, a piece of the ground I'd walked before the accident. I held the stone, its coolness grounding me. It wasn't about the past anymore, or Nathan, or what I'd lost. It was about now, this moment, this breath. I set the stone at the base of the tree, not as a goodbye, but as a marker. I'd been through fire, but I was still here, still growing. My chair felt lighter as I wheeled away, the park's colors vivid, the world wide open. I breathed slow, my heart steady, and knew I was ready for whatever lay ahead. The morning of the design conference, I woke before my alarm, the Seattle sky still dark. I lay still, listening to the quiet, my heart steady. At 30, I'd learned to savor these moments, the calm before a big day. I wheeled to my closet, choosing a navy blazer, crisp and simple. It wasn't about looking perfect. It was about feeling ready. My wheelchair, now wrapped with a sleek phoenix design, gleamed in the mirror. I smiled, small but real, and headed out. The conference hall buzzed with voices, designers mingling over coffee. I wheeled to the speaker's prep area, my notes tucked in my bag. Carla from the nonprofit greeted me with a warm hug. "You've got this, Sadie," she said, her eyes bright. I nodded, nerves tingling but grounded by her faith. My talk was about accessible design, but really it was about my journey, how loss reshaped me, how I rebuilt. I spent the morning in workshops jotting ideas, my pen moving fast. A young designer, Maya, sat beside me, asking about my nonprofit work. Her curiosity was genuine, and I shared tips, feeling a spark I hadn't in years. Lunch was a blur of chatter, and I found myself laughing, my voice blending with the crowd. Tara texted, "Knock 'em dead," and I grinned, her fire in my pocket. When my session came, I wheeled onto the stage, the spotlight warm. The room was full, faces expectant. I took a breath, my voice clear. "Design isn't just lines and colors," I began. "It's about who we include." I spoke of my accident, my chair, my work, each word steady. The audience leaned in, some nodding, others scribbling notes. I felt exposed but strong, like I was building a bridge between who I'd been and who I was now. After people approached, sharing their stories, a veteran with a prosthetic, a mom designing for her deaf son. Their words wrapped around me, a reminder I wasn't alone. I wheeled to a quiet corner, needing air. My phone buzzed. "Lauren." "I'm here," her text read. I froze, surprised. We hadn't spoken since I'd asked for time, but she'd come, no warning. I spotted her across the room, her face soft, almost shy. We met by a window, the city sparkling below. "I'm sorry," she said, her voice low. "I didn't see you, not really." I studied her, seeing the sister who judged, but also loved in her way. "I know," I said, my tone even, "but I'm not that Sadie anymore." She nodded, tears in her eyes, and we stood there, not hugging, but closer than we'd been in years. It wasn't perfect, but it was enough. Back home, I lit a small candle, its flame steady. The conference had been a milestone, but this moment alone was mine. I opened a new sketchbook, drawing a simple horizon, the line clean and sure. My life wasn't what I'd planned, but it was full friends' work, a team that felt like family. I set the pencil down, the candlelight soft, and breathed the past, a shadow I no longer feared. The days after the conference settled into a rhythm, like a song I was learning to hum. I started waking earlier, not to rush, but to sit with my thoughts. My apartment, once a reminder of Nathan's absence, now felt like a canvas, each corner holding something I'd chosen: a woven blanket from Joyce, a potted fern from Marcus, a team photo Tara had slipped into my bag. I wheeled through the rooms, my hands light on the wheels, and saw my life taking shape, not perfect, but whole. I began volunteering at a community center, teaching kids to sketch. Their small hands gripped pencils, their laughter loud as they drew wobbly houses and lopsided stars. One girl, Lila, shy with braids tight against her scalp, showed me her drawing a woman in a wheelchair smiling. "It's you," she said, her voice soft. My throat tightened, not with sadness, but with a warmth I hadn't known I needed. These kids with their fearless lines taught me to see myself anew. Tara and I grabbed dinner one night, a tiny diner with sticky tables and the best fries. She talked about our next game. Her eyes fierce but paused to ask, "You ever think about them, Nathan Harper?" I sipped my soda, the fizz sharp. "Sometimes," I said. "But not like before. They're not here." She nodded, her hand brushing mine. "You're free, Sadie. That's what matters." Her words landed quiet but true, like a stone settling in still water. I met Lauren again, this time at her hotel before she flew back to Chicago. We sat in the lobby, coffee cooling between us. She spoke of her own regrets, a marriage strained by her need to control. "I pushed you away," she said, her eyes down. I reached for her hand, my touch light. "We're here now," I said. It wasn't a full repair, but it was a start, a bridge we could cross later. She hugged me, her arms tentative, and I let her, feeling the weight of family shift, not heavy but present. Back home, I started a new ritual, wheeling to a nearby overlook at dusk. The city spread out, lights flickering like stars. I'd sit there, my breath slow, thinking about the accident, the betrayal, the long climb back. I didn't hate Nathan or Harper anymore. They'd hurt me, but their choices weren't my truth. I forgave them, not for them, but for me to let go of the ache. My hands rested on my lap, the evening air cool, and I felt a peace I'd fought for, earned through every small choice to keep going. The nonprofit grew, my designs now on posters across town. I trained harder with the team, my chair an extension of me, not a limit. I laughed more, sketched more, lived more. The woman who'd sat broken in this city a year ago was still part of me, but she wasn't all of me. I'd built something stronger, not from anger, but from choosing myself every single day. What I learned is this: pain carves you, but it doesn't define you. We're shaped by what we lose, but we grow by what we choose to love, to try to rise. Strength isn't loud or perfect. It's the quiet decision to keep going, to find joy in the small, to know you're enough just as you are. I'm still learning that, but I'm here, and that's everything. What's a moment that shaped you, that made you choose yourself? Drop it in the comments. I'd love to hear your story. If this touched you, give it a like, subscribe for more journeys like mine, and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Thank you for listening, for being here. Here's to healing, to growing, to all of us finding our way.